Last year, our relations with China, we exchanged $330 billion worth of goods, which is, first of all, a staggering number, yes. But second of all, it was a 10% increase from the previous year, and that's a trend that we've been seeing. Now, our increased dependence on goods from China, a lot of which are essential power generating, energy generating, of course, cars, toys. We trade with China heavily in many different areas, but especially critical ones such as energy and power, etc. Um, the trend has been going upward, and I'd just like to pause and take a step back and think about the potential ramifications of being so heavily dependent on one trading partner. Imagine a scenario where something goes wrong with the diplomacy between China and the United States, or that there's some tension, there's some conflict or disagreement, and China decides to employ an embargo or some kind of economic sanctions on the United States. Now, that effectively could cripple our economy. Think about it. If that's our number one trading partner, $330 billion worth of goods, and exchanged, imports and exports. If we're cut off from that country, our economy could go into severe shock, and we'd have a complete lack of consumer products, which is of course what's in big demand here. So that's putting a lot of stock in one area that can be really easily disrupted and is really volatile, and I don't think that's a very smart idea. I guess the people running the country think it's alright, but I hope that no situation ever comes up where we'd be put in trouble because of that. Another example would be oil. We're the number one importer of oil in the world, and a lot of that comes from the Middle East. Now, the Middle East, our relationship with the Middle East has already been strained, but so far we keep finding a way to get the oil. What the problem is here is you're mixing your economics with your politics, your international relations. And for example, President Obama, when dealing with countries in the Middle East that are major oil suppliers, may have to act differently in order to ensure that our economic needs are met, sort of appeasing their demands, the country's demands, or not dealing with them in the fullest to the fullest extent that he may normally would if our economy didn't rest in the balance. Oil is one of the most important things to our economy, and without it, we would completely fall apart. It powers almost everything. Of course, we're gradually shifting to greener solutions, but as of right now, oil is number one. And if our international diplomatic relations are put in check because of our need to secure our oil supply, that seems dangerous to not only how we're viewed in the world, but also to our own national security. We need to make sure that nothing is compromised when dealing with other nations for the sake of preserving our economic interests. And that's where we are right now. They're so closely wedded that we don't know what's being done to preserve our oil versus what's being done to preserve our country. And that's something that I believe should never come in conflict. And yet that's the system that we live in today, the capitalist system, free trade, lots of foreign trade, lots of finite natural resources. Oil is a finite natural resource, and we put so much stock in it, number one importer, that although we may be gradually transitioning off of it, it may be too little too late, and we need to really scale back our super high consumption demand need for oil in order to prepare ourselves for the future. And that's going to be a problem. If we can't prepare ourselves for the future, then things could go very wrong. And so that's why I'm saying, take a step back, analyze the system, what's going right, what's going wrong, make things more equal. It says in the Constitution, it says all men are created equal, and I'll just add in women too. It sounds like a reasonable suggestion. So let's treat it that way. If everyone is equal, then let's make sure that everyone is getting a fair piece of what they deserve here. Let's not have such concentrated wealth. Let's make sure that the national security interests of everyone are being provided for. And let's make sure that we're not damaging our environment that we have to live in, we have to breathe the air from, we have to deal with the consequences. Capitalism is at its core about profit. Government deregulation, profit, entrepreneurship, big business, small business, entrepreneur, any of that, all of that. And most of all, it's profit. And so I think profit may be all well and good, but if profit stands in the way of the well-being of everyone on this planet, particularly America, because that's what we're talking about, then we need to put it aside and focus on a more humanitarian approach to economics. Because in the end, the people doing the economics are just people. And so we are affected by the environment and foreign relations just as much as anything else. And we need to treat our economy that way. Let me just close by saying that this is not simply an advocation of socialism or communism or anything like that. I'm not saying that we need to take up torches against the government or anything like this. I'm not saying you even need to cause riots. I'm just saying, become aware. Take a step back. Look over what's going on. If something doesn't seem right to you, think about it for a second. Don't simply take for granted the same system that we've been living with our whole lives. It's a difficult thing, and if you step back, you take time, you look it over, get involved in government, write to your senators, write to your whoever you need to write to, but be more educated, because knowledge is never a bad thing. And I know this is a lengthy video, and if any of you managed to stay with me for the whole time, I thank you for it. I hope I wasn't too radical or too wordy. And in the end, this is all just about getting the word out. I hope you all can take something from this, and I appreciate your time. Thank you.